Steve, how important is the quality of data that a company holds when they're really looking to go global, perhaps?
That's a very interesting question, because in actual fact, we've worked with multinational companies who've operated a federated business model. So the reality is within each country, they'll have the ability to market, sell, manufacture and deliver their product to their local market. And the reality is they only have to do as good a job on data management as they need to do locally to get that job done. So data really isn't on the strategic agenda at all. Now, when those companies decide they want to change their business model and globalize, so perhaps they want to implement a global supply chain and have the ability to take an order for a product in one jurisdiction but actually manufacture it in a different one, suddenly master data becomes extremely important, because if you're going to take the order in one place and fulfill it in another, that particular product probably has to have exactly the same name in both places. Otherwise, when the order arrives at the manufacturer, you're running the risk they're not going to understand what's been ordered and they're going to manufacture the wrong product. So the minute an organisation decides to embark upon a globalisation strategy, which of course has huge bottom line benefits for the shareholders, massive reduction in excess capacity, excellent efficiencies, lowest cost of manufacture, data quality becomes a barrier to success.
So what you're talking about here isn't even just managing existing data, it's all the processes which need to be thought through and put in place to make sure that the data that's inputted is effective and meaningful.
Absolutely. So rather than having thousands of people all over the globe inputting data to whatever standard they think is necessary for them to do their job locally, you suddenly have to have a global standard for the master data. You have to make sure that everybody who's involved in creating that data, each request is properly authorized, each request is properly executed, and ideally you can centralize the maintenance of the data as well using something like a shared services model, so that you're really restricting the access to the system, so you're closing down the opportunity for mistakes to be made. So again, a simple example would be instead of somebody simply typing in a customer because they've got a new customer locally, they would request it, and the authorization process would check whether actually that customer is already a customer of our organisation, we're already doing business with their head office, other branches around the world, in which case the data could be created in the correct context and wouldn't therefore need cleaning later on.
It does though sound rather as if you're talking about adding layers of complexity to a process rather than simplifying something.
Well, yes, I think there's a hope when people talk about doing master data management that one of the things it will do is reduce the overall effort for the organisation in maintaining data. That's probably not going to happen. It's certainly not going to be a central part of any business case for action. What I think you'll find is the effort will be centralised and the effort will deliver a much higher quality data asset. And therefore, where the real benefit lands is dealing with all the business problems that currently occur because of poor quality data no longer happens. And therefore, you can't really realise the benefit without the corresponding business activity. But again, intuitively, I think if you think, well, I'm going to do a better job of doing something, a significantly better job, you wouldn't necessarily expect to be able to do that in half the time. So I think it's more about reducing the numbers, better control, lower risk, still striving for maximum efficiency in execution of data management, but you're probably not going to realise a significant overall reduction.
And I guess what you're saying is adding in a bit more effort up front eliminates some of the longer term problems which have huge cost implication or time implications for an organisation.
That's absolutely correct, and some of the examples we're going to talk about later on will really bring that to life.
If you found Steve's wise words a good wake-up call and a challenge to check the accuracy and the meaningfulness of the data that you hold, and you've maybe got a nagging feeling that it's not all it needs to be, then you might also want to sign up for the rest of the series, and you can do that just by pressing the button on your screen. If you also have any questions or thoughts or perhaps a comment that you'd like to share with Steve, you'll find all the contact details here.